Hey, this is Derek D-Train He2. Tonight's episode is brought to you by...
It's one all, one shot, now the future is yours. Go!
Welcome back to the Blue Line Hockey Club, folks. Another exciting episode of the Blue Line Hockey Club. We got some of the usual suspects sitting in the house with us tonight. We got our producer, Patrick Uncle Lardy Sullivan. What's up, Patrick?
Aloha.
And our IT guy, the local nerd on staff, Robbie Pete Peters. What's up, Pete?
Hey, how you mama then?
And your host of the Blue Line Hockey Club tonight for episode 110, Mark the Dr. Morley.
Oh, Doctor.
Hey, listen up, fellas. We got a special guest sitting in with us tonight, a friend of the program, been with us here before. We got Steve Dubinsky. He's a former NHL'er with the Blackhawks, Flames, Predators, Blues. Also has the Super Series Elite showcases that he does around the country, and we've been helping him out with that as well. So it's good to have Steve on. What's up, Steve?
How much, boys? Thanks for having me back on. It's been a little bit of a interesting last 5-6 months with COVID and my business and everything, but we get to watch playoff hockey. I sat there for about 8 hours a day about a month ago and just thoroughly enjoying the level of play, considering the layoff for these guys.
Yeah, so just to touch on real quick with the Super Series Elite showcases, obviously this has affected you drastically as far as your schedule and stuff like that. So are you following like the USA Hockey guidelines, or where are you guys at with that?
Yeah, for the most part. So when COVID had kind of struck in March, we had really, the last event that we did was the one that you guys were a part of in New Jersey. And then we went into spring, so we ended up moving our largest spring tournament, top tier Toronto, out of Toronto. It ended up going to Rochester for about 3 weeks, and then when New York State decided to close, we moved it to Pittsburgh, PA, and then the governor there put down some restrictions, and we ended up unfortunately canceling that event. We ended up having, 2 or 3 of our Triple Crown events that were normally 24 teams, probably down to 6 to 10 max. So it's been a little bit of a grind for sure, both mentally and, financially for our company. But, we're able to regroup a little bit. Our Boston Breakout, which is normally our largest event, kind of got splintered into certain teams in New Hampshire, only from New England, based on the rules in New Hampshire. We have a small group of teams in Connecticut, and then we have a couple of 8 groups in Philadelphia and spread out in PA. I'm not even sure where it's being held. I think it's a suburb of Pittsburgh that happens to be outside of the county that's very strict. So it's been it's been interesting. Our Midwest Exposure Series, which is at the older levels, which has been in the Midwest, has actually been quite successful. We had a weekend in August in Minneapolis. We had Labor Day in Wisconsin, and then in a week and a half we have another big event going off in Minneapolis with close to 50 teams. So, bits and pieces, trying to navigate this COVID world, and fortunately we're able to navigate it. We have smaller events that we can just move around, and the families and the teams have been very, very understanding. And hopefully within the next little bit, USA Hockey is slowly opening up certain cities and certain districts, and we're just going to roll with it. So,
Steve, I'm curious, if you don't mind me jumping on here. Are there the normal numbers of teams that are usually interested? Were they still asking to come, or were there just have teams fallen off because of the uncertainty?
Well, dealing with the teams, everybody wants to go. Everybody wants to travel. It really comes down to what's open. Illinois has been very, very, very closed. Michigan, the same. This past week, Detroit announced that they're able to have the rinks open. I'm not sure what that means for tournaments. Illinois had been closed completely, but we're allowing practices. And now apparently I got word tonight that Illinois, the AHI, which is the governing body of Illinois, is now allowing teams to travel to USA Hockey sanctioned events. So, for example, our Minnesota event that's in 9 days will have some Illinois teams. So, I think the willingness is there.
Yeah.
California, for example, I've obviously got a lot of friends at the LA Junior Kings. They've unfortunately had to close their practice facility twice in the last month because of COVID and the Kings coming back from, trying to skate. And so realistically, the will is there. It's just a matter of what works. And, the hockey parents are devoted and crazy like everybody else, and they want their kids to play. It's really just a function of finding those events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're actually playing down here in Florida for a while, like a month now. So, even though it's going crazy in Palm Beach, they opened the rink back up like a month ago, and I haven't put my kid back into it yet down there, but I'm thinking about the next week or so to get back into it.
Yeah, I know that in Florida they've done some restrictions with like for the Florida Alliance, which is the team that Aiden played on, which is more of a state team. They're only allowing national bound teams to leave the state to travel. So like the AA programs, from what I understand, have to do all interstate, which, it is what it is. At the end of the day, it's not a terrible thing. I just think people want to get games. And I think if I was in a situation where I wanted to play and that's the only opportunity, then that would be it. I know you started talking about Raleigh. I know that the Junior Hurricanes program are attending a number of our events. So I believe I don't know if they're open for games in state.
They are,
or
not,
at least allowing teams. Okay. Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, they're
so it's interesting how all the states are different.
Yeah, they're skating and they're practicing. I think they're allowing like skate coaches to have their training sessions, but there's no games and stuff yet.
Yeah, it's interesting how the districts are being very, like I know Maryland, which is part of that same district as Carolina and Florida. Everybody is kind of really keeping it close and not allowing a lot of teams to come in. And, that's kind of be like Canada's completely closed off for, obviously the border's closed. They're not allowing, I believe Ontario's doing only 4-on-4 hockey.
Wow.
No face-offs. It's just a weird dynamic. And, I'm all about player safety. And, the biggest problem is I just don't know if anybody really knows. That's kind of the biggest, the unknown is, who has an idea? Like, we had a bunch of teams from one of our tournaments last week. We had 7 teams pull out in 48 hours.
Wow.
Because of players having COVID, exposed to COVID. What are the protocols if one kid on a hockey team gets, a symptom and gets diagnosed with COVID? Well, the whole team essentially is quarantined, but, no one really knows if that's truly what is needed. And I think that's another thing they have to address is, no one really knows. The president, Fauci, no one really knows. That's, I think, the biggest issue with it is no one's willing to take that chance.
Right. We don't have the tests that can give us a rapid response in order for us to know right there and then. Well, not right there and then. I think the first test that came out, it took 5 to 7 days, Steve.
Yeah, they're getting close, though. From what I understand, they're getting really close to getting that 15-minute, test that everybody can take. And I think that'll change youth hockey. That's, from the one thing that I'm concerned about, that'll change things where people can get diagnosed,
Yeah, I don't think you hit it on the head.
Have symptoms, so. I
think you hit it on the head. There is willingness. There's just no confidence in the not knowing, right? Everybody wants to get back out and do stuff, but without knowing that I'm, going to carry that home to my mother, I can't exactly do anything.
Because you can't see it. You don't know. You just don't know if you're carrying it on your sweater.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
You just don't know where it sits. Is it in the air? Is it? It just, like I said, I'm hopeful that they could come up with a vaccine because, I don't know if the NHL, I'm really loving the playoffs, but no fans, can that league survive?
It's not sustainable
To do
The
another
fans pay- No, I mean, maybe they have surplus, but the fans
true.
pay for everything, Steve. I don't understand how they could keep their payroll going.
Well, that's the other thing too, is without fans, they're not football, they're not baseball. Like, the football game starts tomorrow night. The NFL has a $6 billion TV contract. The advertisers are probably looking at it going, so now instead of 80,000 people sitting in a stadium and seeing a minimal number of advertisements, we have those 80,000 people sitting in front of their television watching an advertisement for Coca-Cola or,
Exactly.
McDonald's
Bud Light.
or, you know what I mean, whatever, Bud Light. Like, and so the money for that league is off the charts. Hockey just, it's a great sport and it's come a long way. Obviously, guys are making a lot of money, but it's nowhere near the amount of revenue that's generated from football. So that's, it'll be interesting to see the COVID in football. If they're, look at baseball, what happened at the beginning with teams missing series after series because somebody was sick. That'll be an interesting with football because they're not in a bubble.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, hopefully this thing blows up for you once it opens up, and this COVID thing kind of fades out.
Yeah,
Everybody's going to want to get
to because we have such a big year plan that I really hope that we can somehow, but things might go from January to August instead of September to March, right? So, hockey, my business goes all year round, and if I have to move a May event to August and move a February event to May, then it is what it is. I just think the parents they're going to be hungrier than ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the parents, hockey parents have that big credit card, right? And they've been able to stay home and pay that off. So like Mark said, when everything, hopefully vaccination comes back, I think the uptick for the Super Series showcases is going to be everyone will be itching to get to those tournaments because they're the top tournaments.
Just in general, it's going to be who's going to have the ability to house the events. There's only certain cities that have a certain amount of rinks, and hopefully we can maintain what we've done in the past. And to my friendly competitors as well, there's only a few of us that have larger sustaining events, and we'll all bounce back just like everybody else is going to from this.
For sure. You have to create a Super Series elite bubble. Just put chain link fence around.
We've already talked about that. That's funny. We actually are looking at this. So I'm not sure if you heard, but Pee Wee Quebec tournament got canceled.
No.
So, that's such a staple for every, that Pee Wee major player in the country for the most part, and the European teams. And so we actually, one of our partners at Exposure Hockey Group, we put out a tweet the other day about putting on a bubble event for the 2008 group, which is the same level as the Pee Wee Quebec. So we're one step ahead of you guys.
There you go, man. Love it.
It can be done.
All right, man. Well, we hopefully we get this shit taken care of and move on because I think everybody's sick of it. So.
We're all ready.
Yeah, everybody's ready to move on. That's for sure. Well, they haven't had to stop in the NHL, and we've actually got to see some hockey for the last couple months here. And let's get into talking a little bit about that. Yeah, I mean, it's been good hockey. Obviously, no fans. That's hasn't been a big issue for me, but some people I talk to, they're not into it as much. And I've mentioned it in the past episodes. So, baseball to me was kind of boring without fans. Hockey is so interactive and fast paced. It's not as much of a difference to me. So I've enjoyed the playoffs. I've enjoyed watching hockey. It's been some good hockey. Players seem to be able to get up for it and still play hard without any fans. So it's been a good playoffs so far.
Yeah, Steve, being a former NHL player, have you had any scenario like this or anything, anything like this? And what do you think it would be like playing without fans? Or that would be just unreal, or?
Well, I think at the end of the day, I think from the perspective of the player, that from a fan's perspective, sitting here for, when they first started, the 4 or 5 games a day, the pace, the level, the from a fan's perspective, sitting at home, the way the NHL has done, the noises, the fans, when the team scores, everything they're doing, I think it's been phenomenal.
I'm with you.
From a player's perspective, in the facility, in the rink, I personally think that at the beginning they were probably like, oh, this stinks, we don't have anybody to cheer. But I think as the playoffs went on and they got used to the fact that they're their own cheerleaders, they're their own fans, and the ability for a player on the bench who maybe doesn't play as much to be a cheerleader and to really, be part of that. And at the end of the day, these guys are professionals. They're all vying for the Stanley Cup. And to watch the competition over the course of this whole time frame, I mean, the hockey's been, in my opinion, it's been as good as any former Stanley Cup playoffs that I've seen, and the skill sets of the players just seems to get better and better. The interesting part about the playoffs is the amount of physicality in the games. To me, that's the separator. Tampa goes out 4 straight last year to Columbus.
Yeah.
They left there going, that'll never happen to us again. I watch a ton of NHL Network. I watch a ton of live, NHL Live on NBC Sports, and a lot of people were criticizing the Tampa Bay GM for giving up first-round picks for Blake Coleman and Barclay Goodrow. Well, look who's playing still.
Mm-hmm.
And having a major role. Like, you're talking Maroon, Goodrow, and Coleman. So, to me, those are the 3. They have tons of skill. Stamkos hasn't played. Braden Point, to me, is probably the best player in the league.
Yeah, he's been on fire.
Goaltending off the charts. Hedman is 6'5", skates like the way, you know what I mean? So the team itself, the pieces that were missing last year to compete with the Blue Jackets were all addressed to have a deep playoff run. So people talk about the regular season. Maybe Tampa didn't have, I don't even know. I don't know if they were, because Boston ended up first, I believe, at least before Corona hit.
Yes.
And Boston lost every game, I believe, in the round robin or the play-ins, whatever that is. But, the interesting thing about the game now is when I watch Vegas, and really the game has changed to the point where I think that the focus of teams moving forward is going to be a defenseman who can defend, but also create and contribute offensively.
Yeah.
It's really like Shea Theodore. I mean, I've yet to see in this playoffs, Cale Makar, Quinn Hughes. Hedman is a little bit of a throwback because he's not as offensive as Hughes, Makar, and Theodore. Mm-hmm. But the way he contributes and competes on the defensive side allows him to create offense. And I just, having been a coach the last few years, watching a ton of hockey, like that to me is where I think the game is going to change. I don't know if it's going to turn to where they could put forwards on D because doesn't work when you're defending 6'4" forwards like Alex Tuck. But they're going to really, like, you look at the Islanders, look at the 4 teams that are left. It's amazing when you really break down how the D on these teams is the separator, because I think the forwards in the NHL, they're so skilled. Everybody can play. It's 4 lines. Goaltending and defense is really, like, look at Heiskanen. I mean, he's got 23, 24 points. He's 21 years old. I totally forgot about him. Klingberg. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's insane, the defensemen. So the D that are going to be coming up in the world over the next X number of years, they really have to be kind of like a mixture of Erik Karlsson and Radko Gudas.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that the defense, you hit it right on the nail, right on the head of the nail, Steve. That the whole defense is all four teams, and what I think that is the difference factor in these two series is the power play and how they defend the power play, because both teams have firepower when they're on. Any of these four teams are on the power play, they're putting rubber on the net. And it's whatever defense or penalty kill core that can fend these off. And this definitely, these two series is definitely defensive oriented for sure.
Yeah,
Steve, I'm curious,
but with offense though, like that's the thing. Like everybody's playing, from the blue line out. But at the end of the day, like everybody talks about Gerard Gallant and Pete DeBoer. And what happened? What was the difference from a Monday to a Tuesday? The difference is that Pete DeBoer, coming from San Jose with Carlson and Burns, really pushed for the D to be part of the offense, but still stressed you can't just be a fourth forward. And so that to me is when people talk about defense, which defense does win championships, but the word defense, I think, has changed because the Vancouver-Vegas series was probably the most lopsided 7-game series I've ever watched. Vancouver beat them, but got outshot by 40 shots in a game.
Yeah.
Thatcher Demko was outstanding. And kudos to him, because here's a guy, if Markstrom doesn't get injured, he never gets a chance. There's all this talk. I was listening on the radio the other day, like, oh, it's going to be a goalie off season. Everybody well, you know what? Vancouver maybe now can go, do we really need to sign Markstrom for $6 million a year? $7 million,
right.
Whatever. I'm just randomly making that up. When we have Thatcher Demko, who's 6'5", who finally got an opportunity, who's on his entry level. And if he's not on his entry level, we'll sign him to a true bridge contract that's not worth what some of these forwards and D are signing in their bridge contract. So, like I said, I'm just giving you my perspective from what I see. But to me, it's just amazing how the game has really changed from, you watch a game from 5-6 years ago, and the D, there was one guy a team who could contribute offensively. Now it's 3 or 4 on each D-core who are consistently, especially with these guys. Like the funny thing is the Islanders, the Islanders in Vegas, the one thing I take from those two teams is their D-core, the minutes played is very equal. And I heard it on NHL Network, on the NBC network one time. They were saying that in one game with the Islanders, every D-man played between 20 and 23 minutes. Every single one.
Wow.
So the Hawks, my beloved Hawks, Duncan Keith is an outstanding hockey player. But when he has to play 33 minutes in a game, and others, because they're younger and maybe they don't feel confident enough in them, eventually that gets to them.
Mm-hmm.
Seth Jones played 62 minutes of a hockey game. Like no one understands. Like he basically would go on for 40 seconds, come off for 12, go back on for 40, go off for 7 or 8 until they're like, people don't understand the grasp that. So like the athleticism, the size, like everything for these D, it's to me that's really been. And that's why these 4 teams are here. It's nothing against Columbus or Colorado or these teams, but consistently these teams were able to get timely goals on the power play and great goaltending.
Yeah, Steve.
But a lot of the offense is driven by the D, for sure.
Yeah, what I was just going to touch on is exactly what you just said there. Is it something that you hear a lot when you're listening to analysts on NHL Network or NBC, whatever it may be, is what they talk about is activating the D, right? So that term, activating the defense, I mean, if you look back, I don't know how many years ago, you never heard that. You never heard of activating the defense, as far as like winning games. Like I just heard it tonight. Like Tampa Bay's been really activating their defense, and that's why they won game one, right? So you just hear that all the time now in all levels. I mean, I hear it at the USA Development Program training. Things that they have for coaches. That's what they talk about, activating the defense and, telling the young players, what position do you play? Well, I play defense, but, or I line up on defense, but, I play everywhere, right? So they want to focus on these, even the young players, focusing on offensive-oriented defensemen and activating the defense. And that's just that term. If you listen to these analysts, you'll hear it over and over, how they keep touting that as why teams are winning.
I think with the just with the new style of hockey, right? So there's, when Steve played or when we played, it was clutch and grab. You can put your stick around the player's stomach and go water skiing through the neutral zone, or hold on to a stick for at least 2 seconds. And now it's less physical. So these defense are allowed to take off and get the puck because someone's going to back up. Let's say a small forward's going to back up his position, and he doesn't have to be the 6'4" Chris Pronger on defense to defend now. So that's my view, anyways.
Yeah, definitely. Everything's more obvious.
I mean, Nicholas Lidstrom is probably the epitome of kind of like, and he obviously he's a Hall of Famer, but I mean, at the end of the day, in his time, the game was way more physical, way more clutch and grab. But here's a player who could literally play the entire game because he was just smarter than everybody else.
Yeah.
His angles, his sticks, like the term that everybody uses on television now is stick on puck. And I think that physicality, I look at someone's ability to have stick on puck as almost like a physical part of the game. Even though they're not engaging physically, they're taking away time and space by utilizing their hockey stick.
Yeah.
That's something that really is a huge part because the players are so skilled. Like, the forwards can manipulate where the D puts their stick. And then it's amazing when you watch the players and what they're developing and what they do with their skills coaches. A lot of it has to do with making the player that you're going against do something they don't want to do.
Sure.
It's very interesting. I mean, listen, and the guys are obviously, very, very knowledgeable on television, and they watch and they see, you can be Torrey Krug and be as effective as Chara
with your step
because you're utilizing your body, so Krug is 5'10", Chara is 6'10" on skates as an example. But the way they play, it's just the ability for Torrey Krug, who is a great player, and he's probably going to cash in this summer being an unrestricted free agent. I heard something to say about Detroit because that's where he's from, but it's amazing, the game. I don't think you can be I think it's significantly easier to be a smaller forward in today's game than it is to be a smaller D, because you do have to battle 6'2", 6'3" forwards at times. But the game has definitely switched to where, when every team took a 6'4" D-man in the first round because they thought they could turn him into a player.
Yeah.
Because you can't teach size. And, it's one of those things that I still believe in, that, a bigger player has to prove that he can't play. A smaller player has to prove that he can.
Yeah. That's a good point.
And those are, and these are all things that just coming from being involved in the sport at a high level the last few years, my boys and coaching and juniors and all that. It's still the consensus that, all things being equal, they're going to take a 6'2" forward over a 5'10" forward. They just are.
Yeah.
And you're not going to fight that. Some teams like Toronto, really has kind of turned to more of a skilled organization, but they just haven't had success in the playoffs. And looking at Tampa last year, won the President's Trophy, losing 4 games in the playoffs. There's no one in Tampa's organization that was happy. So,
I got something I wanted to ask you to run by. These guys, I've been hearing it
Sure.
for a couple of weeks now. Is the playoff hockey, as you know it, as we know it. They usually let the game play a little more, and the refs hold their whistle. I see that not happening as much, especially in the closing minutes of periods and games. Especially when it's a 3-2 game at the end of the third, and they call a penalty with 2 minutes left. Some of that stuff you used to see in old time hockey, they let the penalties kind of slip, at the end of the game, let the players play. The other thing you talk about, these stick on puck, and, when is it they're going to be responsibility of these fucking stick manufacturers to make a stick that doesn't break? Because if you hit somebody's stick and it breaks, it's an automatic penalty. But I mean, these sticks are like toothpicks, So it's like, all right, when can we go to these manufacturers and say, all right, let's make a stick that doesn't break, causing all these penalties and game time situations. And, I'm just going on a tangent right now about that shit, because I think the penalties, the penalties in the NHL have gone crazy. But do you think that in playoff hockey, like we are now with 4 teams left, should the ref hold the whistle a little bit more and put it in his pocket towards the end of the game, or just call it like it has been all year long?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the dilemma for the NHL is, really they've gotten, they went from, I literally heard something the other day about over the course of like 40 years, there was like 5 power plays called in overtime over the course of those entire playoffs.
Wow.
That resulted in a goal. And like in these playoffs, it seemed like there was, I kind of like it because I think it holds the players accountable to play and the refs to call the game regardless. And I think that was the big switch with the NHL was, you know what? If it's a penalty in the first minute of the game, it's a penalty in overtime. And that's kind of been the philosophy for, last 10 years or so, where they're going to, if there's a penalty, they're going to call it regardless of what the situation is. So I'm not saying I like it, but the one thing they've gotten out of it is consistency.
Yep.
Whereas, if someone was going on a breakaway in the 80s and he got hooked, who knows if they were going to call it a penalty because they didn't want the power play to determine the game. Well, now, it's become, the fans love the power plays, the higher scoring. So I think they're in a, I don't think the game's ever been better. So I don't think they're going to change it. I just don't.
Yeah, it drives me fucking crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, there's some calls, like some of the calls are really, really, really weak.
Especially late in the game, like third period.
They'll call a Philly slash, and then they won't get the cross check to the neck, or something stupid like that. That's what I don't understand. Get the cross checks. What are you doing with the cross check?
I think we're just all on the podcast. We always talk about the slashing. It drives us insane because, when we played, if a player has the puck on his stick, I'm going to, give his stick a whack at it, maybe to fumble his hands and get that puck, get the turnover. So I think it just pisses us off when we see a little slash. You're like, are you kidding me? What the hell?
I've got stitches across my chin from a cross check to the face. I mean, these kids don't know what a tough hockey game is.
You got stitches, Steve?
Oh, I had a few. Yeah. I had a few.
Yeah.
So
part of it. So
yeah.
Well,
it'll be interesting though. I think the 4 best teams are. Yeah, I think the 4 best teams are left. I really do. I think at the end of the day, Vegas and Tampa, those teams are my pick to go.
Well, what about the
that would
Avs?
make an unbelievable final.
I'm curious. You sound like you're not surprised to see them out already. I think the rest of the hockey world
I think what happened with the Avs, they lost Eric Johnson, who is a prototypical Keith Minutes, plays against top lines type defenseman. Their goaltending, they were down to their third goalie. I mean, it didn't surprise me, and they still went to Game 7.
Yeah.
In the playoffs, you have to have. I think you have to be lucky to stay healthy. And for the most part, if you look at these 4 teams that are remaining, they each have their, just going to think, starting goalie, Leonard. Although the Islanders have kind of been interesting. They've kind of rotated between Greiss and Varlamov. And then you've
Dallas
got
has got a different situation.
And actually, Dallas actually is interesting, too, because they lost Bishop. And then Hudobin, up until last night had been, and even last night he got peppered so badly that they finally decided to give Ottinger some minutes. But it's a fine line. I really think it's a fine line at that level. The Blackhawks, if you think about it, traded away potentially the goalie that wins the Stanley Cup because they weren't going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and he's going to be up for.
So how many times has that happened that you're trading away a number one goalie because you're not going to make the playoffs, and then you do?
Yeah. Well, Dallas had the Avalanche's number, right? All regular season before the pause, they faced the Avalanche and they dominated in 4 games during the regular season. So I think we knew that going into it, but I just definitely thought with the team that Colorado has, I thought definitely they would be able to beat Dallas, and I think Dallas is kind of, I shouldn't say coming from nowhere, but I don't know. I guess coming out. I don't know. I just didn't see Dallas beating them, I guess.
I didn't see Dallas either.
I don't know if anybody saw.
Yeah, no, I agree. I didn't. And even at the beginning of that series, I really didn't think Dallas. They went up 3-0, and I'm like, how did they even go up 3-0?
I know.
But you get a winning attitude and the culture of your team, and you get a timely save and a power play goal here and there. And
bouncing your way, yeah.
Lo and behold,
little Rick Bonus buying into that system, maybe.
Yeah. I think I heard something that when Jimmy Montgomery got fired and they brought in Bonus, they kind of left the system in place for the remainder of the year, and then when they resumed, they went to a little bit more of a defense, once again jumping in and joining the play and that type of offense. And lo and behold, between Heiskanen and Klingberg, they've been outstanding.
I love Klingberg. He's nasty.
And then you really think about it. Cogliano gets hurt. They put in the kid Ricky Yarby, I think, or whatever his name is. He gets a hat trick, and he scores the overtime winner. Well, if he doesn't dress that game because Cogliano's healthy, do they advance?
Wasn't it Hiranta that had the hat trick? What's his name?
Whatever. Yeah, exactly. I can't remember his first name, but he had only played 6 or 7 games during the regular season.
Yeah.
And he comes in and scores a hat trick, including the overtime winner, and it's like, wow. Cogliano, who up until he was suspended, had the longest Iron Man streak. So he's a great team guy, a glue guy that's really good in the playoffs. And he goes out because of injury, and they put in a kid who scores a hat trick, and they go to the Stanley, the conference finals. It's such a weird game that way.
Yeah.
Only hockey. Only in hockey.
Yeah. So right now we got 1-1 with the Lightning tonight. It's in the third period. Obviously, the first game of that series went the way of the Lightning. Yeah, it was. They kind of came out and fucking smacked them in the face. I think Trotz put some things together in the last day or two and figured out how to get back into this game, into this series. Because it was kind of interesting to see what happened tonight after a game like game one. Like how are they gonna rebound? But they came out hot and they scored the first goal. Then Tampa Bay killed off a 5-minute penalty tonight. And Hedman got a goal at the end of the first, and it's been.
I thought that Islanders goal was kind of strange. It looked like Martin pushed Bogosian into Vasilevsky, however you say it.
Vasilevsky, yeah.
Vasilevsky, and then he couldn't recover, and then the puck just kind of fluttered over his glove or his shoulder.
Yeah, I think
we got to get a shout out to. I think we're all rooting for Tampa now. We got a bunch of. Zach Bogosian from Messina, New York. The assistant coach, I forget his name. He's from Brazier. And then he got one of the head scouts from Potsdam.
Which team?
Tampa.
3 North Country guys.
3 North Country guys. Maybe the Stanley Cup will come back to St. Lawrence County.
Yeah.
Here's hoping.
You can have a parade down Main Street.
Busch Light and Pizza are also.
It would be the shortest parade in Stanley Cup history, but
hey, a lot of people would show up though. It's a big hockey community. A lot of people would show up for sure.
Yeah, whatever.
It won't be big as a Dairy Princess parade, but
yeah, right. No, but yeah. I'm just happy to see Tampa, from last year's downfall and losing out to Columbus there. It was just awful. And like Steve said earlier, I don't think there was anyone happy in the Tampa organization. And now, bringing Bogosian from Buffalo, Buffalo sent him down to the AHL and he refused to go, which I don't blame him. And now I
don't blame him either.
I don't know how that works, Steve. What do you think about that? If you're, I guess a tenured vet. That's a good way to say it. And you get sent to the minors, and you're just not willing to go. What do you think about
that? You know what? I mean, I think every situation is different. I mean, I think it's a matter of, sometimes, by not reporting, maybe you force their hand a little bit. But sometimes it goes the opposite way where they're like, oh, listen, well, it's too bad. We're just going to let you wait.
Mm-hmm.
You report, then we'll consider trading you. If you don't report, we don't pay you, and you can wait. You can sit until the time is right. So, but in Zach's case, I mean, he's, there's another example of a player who I believe he was a first rounder.
Yeah, he was like third overall, I think.
Yeah, third or fourth.
Buffalo.
Atlanta Thrashers.
Atlanta, yeah.
So there, exactly. So when you're that highly touted, you're probably coming out of juniors, tearing up the Ontario Hockey League, and look what he's now.
Yeah.
He's a solid, stay-at-home defenseman who fits in really well in the way that Tampa plays.
He's playing with Hedman right now.
Do your job. Move the puck up to the forwards that are making a ton of money, and your goalie loves you. That's what every coach should want. Be like that. Parayko, Pietrangelo. I mean, you look at the Blues, why they won last year, their D. Binnington was outstanding, but they're D. Yeah. And that's really what it is. That's the game.
He's a big, strong guy. I mean, he's a burly guy. He's been in the league a long time. He's going to protect anybody on his team. I like him. I like to see it. He's not going to be that activated defenseman, which he actually did have a pretty sweet
he certainly can.
Yeah. He did have some nice offensive moves a couple weeks ago. He's had some highlight reels there. Comes from a great family. I don't know if you guys know this, but his brother played at St. Lawrence, and Aaron, and I think he was in like his early 30s, 33, 34. He went into the Navy fucking SEALs and was like one of the oldest people to actually go through the Navy SEALs and complete it. When they have that whole craziness when they go in the Navy SEALs, and he actually like broke his ribs and still finished it. I mean, just toughness,
He's a hockey player, yeah.
Yeah, he's a hockey player, great family, so one of his brothers is a Navy SEAL, the other one's in the NHL. Just a good story for the North Country. But I'd like to see Zach Bogosian have success.
What's the age limit? What's that age record for the Navy SEAL? I'm 39.
Fuck.
You got no chance.
You'd be lucky to get to the mailbox, kid.
You know how much running's involved
I
in
went to
that?
the mailbox today on the court.
You got to be able to swim a little bit.
Can you imagine going to Navy SEALs at like 35 years old? Get out of here. Come on.
Get out of here. No way, man.
But anyways, let's switch back over to the other series going on, the Vegas series. Marchessault, Tuck, Mark Stone, Pacioretty. I mean, what a bunch of good pickups. Pacioretty, take the Canadiens captain. Take the Senators captain. I mean, what the fuck, right? Like, what are these teams thinking? Now look at them.
Well, I have a question for you guys. Do you think Ryan Reeves is a difference maker? He sat out, or I don't know if he was injured or what it was. Game 1, Game 2, he's back out there.
He hit that guy and got a suspension. He showed him to the face.
But just having that presence on the ice, I think it makes a difference. What do you guys think?
Big time.
I mean, I think he makes a difference, but I felt like Robin Lehner makes the difference. Like Reeves makes a difference, but Lehner in net makes the difference. That's the statement.
You got a guy like the Flower sitting on the bench. I mean, who's thinking that's happening?
Yeah.
Like early in the season. I mean, Pat, you've been sucking his knob for a while now.
He's one of the best. He's one of the best goalies in the league. I mean, he's nasty, but like Rob said, to get Leonard in net and it just fires everybody up. The team ahead of you. You get. You guys played. We all played hockey. You get that goalie in net sometimes, and it's just that buzz, and he's energized, and just creates that. And I'm not saying Marc-Andre doesn't, but I'm just saying he's a little crazier, funnier, one of those guys that you just rally around.
I've been waiting for the Flower to make his debut here, but they just keep going back to Leonard. He's just been outstanding, and he's on a contract. He's going to this is his last, this whatever. I don't know if he get leased him to the Vegas for the year, however it goes, but he's up for his contract at the end of this year.
Marc-Andre started Game 1, didn't he?
4 shutouts.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he started Game 1, so he did very well. He played very well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The whole thing with his agent probably didn't help his cause at all.
No.
Did you guys see that?
Game, right? Yeah, his agent sent out a tweet with a sword through LaFleur.
Correct. With the Boer's name on the sword.
The coach's name on the sword.
That didn't help his cause. I mean, but it's a tough decision being a coach at that level. And according to what I heard on the radio, that Robin Lehner came back after the break and literally didn't give up a goal in practice.
He's got 4 shutouts right now, Steve.
Exactly. He's got 4 shutouts. Exactly.
I mean, it's a no-brainer. LaFleur is great, but Lehner makes a difference when he's in net. He's got 4 shutouts right now. I don't know anybody else that has 4 shutouts in this series, in this playoffs, let alone having 4 shutouts in an entire playoffs run.
You talk about the Blackhawks letting him go, but look how well Crawford played. I mean, I obviously didn't advance, but he played well too.
He went through, where he went from Chicago to somewhere else first, though, didn't he? Or did he go from
Islanders?
Islanders.
Leonard was Islanders.
Right.
Signed as a free agent by the Hawks, and then got traded to Vegas. My guess, just based on some comments that Stan Bowman made in the media, was my guess is Leonard comes back.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep. He said there's going to be a lot of new faces, but some not new to Chicago.
Oh, there you go, Steve. Back in your hometown.
Just because I think Crawford is going to be moved, and Leonard, and that's just a hunch. I mean, I don't know that.
Sure.
I mean, it's really the Hawks are a little bit in a transition because their D are getting a little older. Kane and Taves still carrying the group. Kirby Doc, I think, is going to be an outstanding player. And, it'll be interesting to see the moves they have to make.
Kubalik, or who's that rookie that's
Kubalik was outstanding this year.
Yeah, he's awesome too.
Yeah. He had a great first game against Vancouver. I mean, against Vegas, and then kind of,
hat trick, right? Or some shit. I think he had a hat trick.
Yeah, he had 4 or 5 points.
Yeah.
Do you think the Penguins and the Blackhawks are in a similar situation with like Crosby and Malkin and Taves and Kane, like where they're getting up there, but they're not winning in the playoffs, and is it time to break them up and try to get some younger talent? Or what are your thoughts on that?
I think there's a bunch of teams who had success in the early, 2010 and beyond, who had superstar players who they had to sign to long-term deals, who are now, getting a little older.
Yeah.
Sidney Crosby, to me, is, between Sidney, Patrick, and Jonathan, they're 3 great players. But they're not the players they were, nor, I mean, actually Patrick Kane still, I mean, I think he's almost gotten better a little bit. It's kind of odd to think that he's changed his game a lot. His hands are obviously outstanding. Jonathan Taves, 200-foot player, probably doesn't add as much offensive as he's used to, but I mean, Sidney Crosby's still so much smarter than everybody else.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Another level.
So, but I agree with that. I think they're in, goaltending for both teams is good, not great.
Matt Murray's looking to get traded.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I tell people all the time, how hard it is to win 3 Stanley Cups like the Hawks did and still maintain the cap and all that. It's very difficult.
Mm.
Very, I mean, the Hawks, look at the players they traded. Panarin.
Yeah.
One of the top 5 players in the world, they traded him. Jarmelson to Phoenix, which is probably a piece that they've never been able to recuperate. Shot blocker, really, really team guy. So, those are the type of guys like that win championships.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's what this game's about, because you don't get measured how you do in the regular season.
Yes, sir.
That's for sure. Yeah, so we still got the 1-1, 5 minutes left in the game, and sorry to keep you away from the exciting action tonight, Steve.
Oh, that's okay. I'm watching it. The shots are 26-17 for the Islanders, so really kind of that probably that 5 versus 3 was probably the difference in the shots.
We had some legendary. We had Clark Gillies on, a couple weeks ago, talking about. You were just mentioning how hard it is to win Stanley Cups. I mean, what did they say, Pat? How many times did they make it to the conference finals in a row? Like
19 or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Crazy roll. They won 3 Stanley Cups in a row?
4.
They won 4, but I
They were
think
in 5.
They went a lot of times.
Will you ever see that again? I mean, was that just like we had Ron Waski on, who was actually the trainer of that team, talking about it. He was, there for those 4 cups, and he was saying like with the free agency and the way things are with the money these days that you might not ever see that again. And people don't talk about that Islanders dynasty as much as you would think. It's just such a hard thing to do, like you said, like win that many cups in a row. Think we'll ever see that again?
No way. No, there's no way. I mean, that was just, when you really think about someone going and like playing that much hockey over the course of 5 years.
Crazy.
And, when it's such a fine line between winning and losing, I mean, that's unheard of. I mean, the Montreal Canadiens, those dynasties, I just don't think it can exist anymore, just based on the salary cap and just everything, the parity in the league, and it just doesn't exist anymore. I mean, what the Hawks did in the course of 6 years is pretty impressive. It's
So
Montreal, people don't realize that in the 60s they used to get every top player in Quebec.
Yeah, right.
No wonder why they were good.
Yeah, a lot of good players in Quebec.
People don't realize that when in the expansion year, I think it was 67, the Blues went to the Stanley Cup final, but I believe, unless I'm wrong, there had to be an expansion team in the finals. It was something bizarre like that. Like they had a division of only teams that were expansion or something like that. I thought I read something like that. Like, I'm like, how does a first year team, like when the Panthers did it, they earned it. But like the Blues went to the Stanley Cup like the first 2 years of their existence.
Vegas.
Something like that. Yeah. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, and if I'm wrong, you can cut it out because I don't want to sound like a moron. But I'm pretty positive that it's something to do with the Blues. The Blue, somebody do that. But I mean, what Vegas has done as a expansion team in this era, those guys deserve, like, if the Kraken come close to picking a team like Vegas did, other GMs should be losing their jobs.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
They just toyed with the other teams. It was bizarre.
Do you think the Kraken can do that?
I don't know. I don't know if they're going to change the rules. Like, I think they totally legally manipulated the draft by picking up players that, like, I mean, what's his name? Carlson. I mean, these, like, touching on Pacioretty a little bit, Nick Suzuki is going to be an all-star in the league within 2 years.
Yeah,
so they did give up a lot for him. But for every Nick Suzuki who was a first rounder, there's other players who don't pan out. So it was a good trade for everybody. I think Vegas wanted a little older presence, someone that can score goals, and Montreal, ended up getting a great player in Suzuki. That's for sure.
Yeah.
A huge pickup.
It'll be interesting to see what Montreal does. Yeah. Stone is unreal. I mean, he works hard. He's a leader. Like, they're, some of the players they picked up is Stasny. I mean, their top six is, like I said, they're an expansion team. I mean, Shea Theodore, just Anaheim's got to be kicking themselves.
I know.
For letting him go. I mean, certain teams are just like, really? We gave up that? Nate Schmidt, and I mean, just the list goes on.
Yeah,
very impressive.
You talk about the goalies, right? I mean, we've been talking about the goalies for that team and how good they are.
Yeah. Fleury, they got, wow. They, Pittsburgh didn't want him. Murray won the cup, I think, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Leonard, they stole. I mean, they do a great job. I mean, I just don't know if the Kraken is even going to be able to do what they did, because I think the GMs are going to be, on the other teams, are going to be significantly smarter with how they go about this next draft.
You like that name, Steve? The Kraken?
Yeah, I think it's cool. The cool logo. I mean, it kind of goes, I think it's just part of the new, let's call it the new NHL.
Yeah.
Cool name, cool colors. I mean, they sold a ton of merchandise. I think they even beat out Vegas. I think I read that they beat out Vegas for the most apparel
merchandise
sold. Merchandise. Yeah, amazing.
Yep. It's good for the
league. It'll be interesting to see what happens. It's great for the league. Yep.
Yeah, great for the league.
Well, guys, so we have it's been fun having Steve on tonight. I mean, What are your predictions before we let you go? What's your prediction for the Cup? Who do you got? Tampa, Vegas?
Yeah, I'm going with Tampa and Vegas, and I'm going to take Vegas in 6.
Vegas in 6. Should I put some money on that, or you lock it?
Sure.
Locking that in?
Sure, I'll buy you guys some. I'll buy you guys a pizza roll at Sergi's if that's not right.
2 ranches.
Extra sauce.
Yeah, extra sauce, 2 ranch, and eat it right away. What's the lineup for the Super Series before I let you go? Just run through what's next for you guys.
Well, I mean, you know what? We have, like we said, we talked about I have a Midwest Exposure Series event in Minnesota coming up. And, our schedule is loaded with events. It's just, really hoping, our Columbus Day weekend in Princeton, New Jersey sold out. We just really don't know. It's just going to be a complete moving target.
Right. Yeah. Until everything.
So we're hopeful that hopefully that you guys can, be part of what we're doing again, and build what we were planning on doing, and keep people interested and all that fun stuff. Well, 7.8 seconds left. Kucherov just scored.
Oh my gosh!
What a shot!
Nasty. Nice.
Did you see that foot pass that he had the other day?
Oh, where he kind of scoops the puck up onto us. Yeah, it's unreal.
Yeah, that was intense.
All right, boys.
All right.
Well, Steve, we appreciate you coming on tonight, taking the time to sit
Anytime,
with the
boys. Always love talking on.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I got the pick for the Stanley Cup, so I'm gonna get on, make some bets.
You can go Islanders and Dallas if you want.
You never know. That's
you got
hockey
a
for you.
50% chance of being right.
That's right. I kind of would like to see the Islanders win. I mean, we've been talking to Clark Gillies and a couple other guys from the Islanders, and it's been a long time for these Islanders fans, and to see them get some success again, they're pretty fired up about it. So I'm secretly rooting for them.
Yes. Well, thanks, Steve.
And Barry Trotz is one of my favorite coaches, so I'd love to see them win.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's an interesting topic we didn't even get to touch, but maybe next time.
Yeah,
for sure. If they make it to the finals, you'll come on again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got it.
All right, boys. Thank you for your time.
All right, Steve. Have a good one.
Thanks.
See you guys.
Have a good one, Steve. Thanks. Yep.
Thanks, boys. Bye.
All right, Steve Dubinsky on with us tonight. Obviously a former NHL'er, and nice to talk to him tonight. What do you think, fellas?
He's another brain that is just wired hockey. I mean, he's got a ton of hockey knowledge. I really like to have him on. We have him on 3 times now, at least. He's just another one of those guys that has an encyclopedia of hockey in his brain. So you take it.
Yeah. Take Steve on anytime we can. Definitely to break down hockey. He's got more insider information than we do. And, he's one of the co-owners of the Super Series Elite Showcases, which we did a little work with him. And it's always fun. And he played at Clarkson University when we were back in high school in our hometown of St. Lawrence County, Canton, Potsdam. So it's great to have Steve on. I think his jersey's hanging in the rafters at Cheal Arena in Potsdam, New York, Clarkson University. So
yeah, I didn't even know that. That's a fun fact for listeners. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I know there's a bunch of people hanging there, but I know he was one of them.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
Well, we had the Coach of the Year come out with Cassidy from the Bruins tonight, fellas. So what do you think about that?
I mean, yeah.
Who did it last year? Who got it last year?
Yeah, he did get it last year.
It was Chief, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Trotz was the year before, right? I don't know. Yeah, Trotz was the year before.
Yeah.
Trotz was the year before, and then St. Louis Blues coach, and now Sweeney. I don't know. I don't really. The Bruins failed, right? They were supposed to go to the
Stanley Cup Finals again this year, and with that team they had, they didn't. You had to play around the team that left the bubble. Their starting goalie, I can't blame it on the coach, but there's all these things that you can throw at Sweeney for not going to the Stanley Cup Finals or playing today. And I just think there's better coaches out there. I don't know what they decided on the whole season, regular season and playoffs, or just after the pause. I'm assuming it's the whole season. They were in first place coming into the NHL playoffs, most points, most wins.
I think before the pause, they were easily the best team in the league.
Yeah. And who knows, the pause it could be a different story. They could be Stanley Cup champions right now if the pause didn't happen.
It could be. Yeah, we won't know.
I mean, I think winning the President's Cup was the big push there. The best team, most points in the regular season, 100 points or something like that before the pause or something crazy. But, I don't know if I agree with it. You have teams that are in the playoffs still today that were underdogs, right? And I think that's when it's a good coach to be nominated. You have the Bruins. We know they had a good team. They've had a good team.
They were supposed,
they were supposed to win the perfection line. They were supposed to get to about to where they got to. But what about the coach of the Dallas Stars? What about the coach of the Islanders? Trotz, obviously a good coach. But teams that aren't expected to get to where they are, even if it's a team that is already out of the playoffs. So maybe it's Torts or, because he had a good run in the playoffs. You know what I mean? Some of these guys that weren't expected to. Yeah, Flyers, great example. They made it to the last round, and they were one of those teams that weren't even supposed to make the playoffs. So, if the Rangers ever did anything in the playoffs, then you would look at Quinn and say, hey, what about him? And I think that's, to me, when you have these Coach of the Year awards, I like to see it as the coach that got his team somewhere that wasn't expected to be there. Even in like the high school levels when we were in school, if you had a coach from, say, Brazier Falls and made it to the Section 10 finals, he would be the Coach of the Year because he wasn't expected to. And that's that's where I kind of see that award. As far as how'd you if you didn't have the players and you coached them to that level. If you have the players, then it's easy.
I'm with you on that.
I agree.
He deserves the award for sure. What he's done the last 2 years made the Boston Bruins a powerhouse. But again, he has all the players to manipulate on these lines. So it's not like exactly what you said, Mark. He has the assets in front of him. So
the three coaches that were up are all out, right? So they're all kind of in the same bucket. None of them.
Yeah. I think GM of the year is up next. I think Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay won tonight, by the way, 2-1. Kucherov scored. It looks like he scored with 9 seconds left in the fucking third.
That's what Steve said. He said 7 seconds, though, but
yeah. So I stepped off of that, but yeah, shit.
Good hockey.
1951, it said. So you got the Lightning up. 2-0 in that series. Do you think the Islanders can even come back from that shit?
I think it's still going to be a series. I think we'll still have a series. Although I watched I watched all the game one, and I watched just a little bit here while we're doing the podcast, and Tampa's all over them. I don't know. I've been saying the Islanders are.
This is the Tampa team we've been expecting, right?
Yeah.
Where have they been? Where are you now?
I just think that it's going to be. Look, can the Islanders do it? Possibly. I think it's going to be very, very hard to overcome this Tampa Bay team. I don't see it happening, honestly.
Yeah, especially losing tonight, it's a game changer. Now that
it's tough, right? Now you're down 2-0.
2-0, yeah. In the bubble.
and Tampa is good, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be really good and play perfect. It's just gonna be tough, man. It's a steep hill. Yeah.
They got to win every game going forward.
Yeah, it is. What do you guys think of the other series? Now that Steve's off, so we're just talking freely at the end of the episode here. The Vegas team is, I think, more talented. But when you have a team like Dallas that beat the Avs, it always kind of hits me in the back of my head like, they beat the Avs. Why can't they fucking beat Vegas? You know what I'm saying? Like, they beat the best team in the NHL, in my opinion, in a 7-game series. So are they going to be able to beat Vegas? Because, did you see? Go ahead.
Dallas can beat the Avalanche beat Dallas every game in the regular season, 4 games, and they manhandled them. So, going into the playoffs and into that series, that was a little bit of the talk. But all of us, all the other hockey community and fan base thought for sure that the Avalanche are going to steamroll them. And I think, we text each other when they won was, where in the hell did Dallas come from? But a lot of people forgot that Dallas, beat them every single game in the regular season. Colorado was 0-4 against Dallas. So
did you see the faces on the McKinnon and McCarr? And
yeah.
After they lost that game, they panned the bench, and those guys are just like, how did that happen?
Dallas has got some really good defense. We talked about that earlier with Steve, against one of the best firepower in the NHL. That's offense and defense. McKinnon's like freaking faster than fast, and they shut him down. They plugged up the neutral zone, Petey. And Colorado couldn't get past the neutral zone.
I think the goalie situation in Colorado, maybe if they picked up the King, or picked up somebody else, maybe Lundqvist or somebody like that, maybe they could have won. But I think their goalie situation isn't as good as the rest of their team.
I'm with you.
Well, it's easy to get lost in the lineup, right? When you have studs like that out in front and they're winning games left and right, it's easy to get lost on who's in net. But with Grubauer going down, I don't know if you guys saw that, but he went to stretch his leg out and must have hyperextended his knee or something, but he went off. Yeah. So, it changes things, just like you said. Now, had they had a goalie in who started making some saves, it could have went completely the other way, like a Thatcher Demko, right? He's getting his first real experience, and he tore it up. So, I don't know. Hockey can be a game of luck, too.
Sure.
Yeah, but it's been a pretty good run, fellas. Now we got the Lightning up 2-0, and we got the other series. What is it, 1-1?
Tied at 1-1.
Yeah, so pretty good series going on there. For me, my picks are going to be the Lightning, and I'm actually going to go with Dallas. For some reason, I think just because Dallas could beat the Avs, I think they can beat Vegas.
Yeah.
You guys have any predictions?
Tampa, Vegas. Tampa's winning the cup this year. Too many St. Lawrence County boys on that team.
Yeah, for those reasons, I'm pulling for Tampa also. But I just feel like Vegas and Tampa are the clear lead horses right now. I would like to see that battle. I'm not sure I have a prediction. As long as it's good hockey, I would like to see Tampa because we have a really good shot at seeing the Cup in Northern New York. But, your guess is as good as mine.
Put that Cup on an Enos buggy and wheel that son bitch around.
Yeah. Son bitch. All right, fellas. It's been a good one. We had Steve Dubinsky on tonight. We want to thank our sponsors, Manscaped. Shave those balls up good. And got anybody else?
Matt Dublin next week, King Clancy Trophy winner. We're going to get him on soon. I don't know if it's next week. We're trying to figure that out with the schedule. But within the next 2 weeks, definitely Matt Dublin's coming on and talking to him.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with all the crazy shit going on in the world. Interesting to see what he's got to say about what's going on in his life and promoting what he's been doing in the NHL. So,
what's the group? The Black Alliance, something like that.
Yeah.
I'll be interested to hear, some background on that for sure.
Yeah, and it's good to see in the NHL, obviously a predominant, I said that word right, league like the NHL having mostly white players, where most of the other the four major sports, we haven't talked about this too much, but are predominantly black, except for hockey. So to see something like this going on in the hockey world, it's more of an impact, I feel like, because it's ignored in this league because there's not many black people. What is there, fucking 10 black people in the league, Where if you go to the rest of the league, there's 10 white people, right? So, I think that's pretty cool for them to promote that in the NHL. Good to see, because it's probably a little bit more prejudice,
Sure.
All right, boys. Well, it's been a good podcast. Check us out on Twitter, Facebook. Watch us on YouTube if you want to see what we look like. And until next time, folks, keep your stick on the ice.
Sweeto!
Oh, doctor.
Meow.
Keep your head up.